Welcome to the Backcountry Marketing Podcast. Today, I'm sitting down with Chris Pew, the CEO and co-founder from TREW. Chris, welcome.
What's up, Cole? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining. I'm excited to have you on the show and talk all about your TREW To You film series that you guys got going on. I love what you guys are doing. I love the creativity and the outside the box thinking when it comes to the big question of like, as brands, how do we stand out in 2024? Because that's a tough thing to tackle, it seems like. So, Chris, I'm curious to hear from you on a scale of 1 to 10. How hard is it for brands to stand out in 2024 from your perspective as a business owner?
Well, first off, thanks, Cole, for the opportunity to talk about TREW To You. I'm really psyched to be on the show. I love the podcast. I love the conversations you've had, exploring the nuances for marketing outdoor industry. Scale of 1 to 10, how hard is it to stand out? That is such a hard question to answer because we're a strange brand. We're like a legacy small brand. We've been around for 16 years, and so for customers who engage in our particular style of backcountry skiing and snowboarding, we're pretty well known. But for skiers and snowboarders outside of that kind of core group, we're an anomaly. They probably haven't heard of us. They might recognize the thumbs up or something like that. So I would say if I was starting a brand right now, I would max out that scale. Like that's a 10 because there's so much product out there. There's so much incredible product. There's so much incredible media and content. But for us, I think it's like a little bit more nuanced in the, 6 or 7 range, because we have our little slice of the pie that we kind of defend, right? Like our positioning in the industry. And then our, strategy for standing out is really about trying to get more people to see what we're doing that we think would appreciate it, right? So we're not trying to find like more of your everyday skier and snowboarder. We're trying to find more of these kind of core users that we know our products and brand would have a resonance with.
Well, let's back up a little bit. For folks who don't know, can you share a little bit about TREW, who you are, and what you guys do?
Yeah, we started in around 2009 was the first year we were selling products, and we started in Hood River, Oregon. And our original product promise was to create this new type of outerwear for kind of backcountry freeride skiing and snowboarding. So if you think back to 2008, 2009, frame touring bindings were just coming out. Your Marker Duke backcountry AT skis were getting like super fat and really light. AT boots were a thing with walk mode. People were making their own split boards. Some brands were producing split boards, but there's this hard goods industry for this kind of new type of backcountry skiing. But there wasn't like an outerwear kit for that rider. It was like either you're wearing a mountaineering kit or a more traditional alpine touring kit, which is tight, no pockets, lightweight, or you had your resort wear that you were wearing outside. And that's what we were doing. We were wearing outside of the bounds. So we were wearing bonfire pants and an old marmot shell, or like Burton pants and an old Arc'teryx shell. We were kind of like putting it together because we wanted the heft and durability and fit of resort wear. But we wanted something like super waterproof and breathable and durable. So we just put it together and made a baggy kind of backcountry bib. And that product, the Truth Bib, has been our best-selling product for the past 16 years. There's like a specific customer that when they touch and feel our product or find our website, they're going to get it right away. And there's some people that don't, and that's totally great. And so our kind of objective on the marketing side is to wave our flag out there and let those customers who are passionate about backcountry skiing in the same way that we are, or resort skiing the same way that we are, let them know that we're here, this is what we're doing, and these are our values. And so that is like, to your initial question, that is how we want to stand out. We want to stand out to customers in a way that our specific customers can find us, not just like, here we are to everybody, because our products aren't for everybody. And, some people would buy our products and they'd be like, oh, this is like, $2 too heavy duty than what I wanted, or I wanted an, insulated pan or something like that. Ours is pretty targeted towards these specific users.
I appreciate that background and that context. That's helpful. When did the idea for the film series? Is that what you call it? A film series? Is that
Yeah, we call it a film contest. We've called it a film project, a community sourced film project. Um, and I mean, that's why it's so fun to talk to you, Cole, like right now, because we've done it for 2 seasons. We're gearing up for our third, and it's really evolved every year. But basically, we announced a contest that we're going to be picking 10 teams. There's a large cash prize and, gear and other perks from the other sponsors of the contest, and we pick 10 teams, and then the teams get 8 or 9 weeks to film. I think it was maybe 8 the first year, 9 the second year, 9 weeks to film, and 4 or 6 weeks to edit. And the final product can be no longer than 5 minutes, so it's a 5-minute edit. And the only prompt we gave them was that what I just told you, like what's true to you, so pretty open ended. We wanted to just see these different creatives and athletes in our industry just put themselves out there and create these unique little vignettes. And then we wanted to put them all together. So we stitched them all together in one 55-minute kind of feature presentation. And we do that in the summer to take it out the following fall, as like a proper ski film tour. And we take it to 10 different stops, and each stop is the hometown of one of the participating teams. So we basically go to their town or mountain or city and throw them a premiere. And then we do a digital release at the same time. And the voting takes place online, but a lot of the voting takes place in person because we put QR codes up so we can see these huge bumps in voting during these in-person events. And then we just tally up the votes and decide the winner and send the winner a check. And that's basically how we've run it for the past 2 years. Did you get a chance to watch the films, I guess, since we last talked?
I did watch some of them.
Cool. Yeah, so I'd be curious to talk to you about what it was like viewing, because that's like, I think the most interesting part about this project is going out and like viewing the project with a new audience in these different locations and hearing the different feedback, or watching, like different audiences clap and yell at different times because they're into different parts of the film. And I really dug that. It's like, wow, this is cool. We're taking this thing that can mean different things to different audiences.
I'm going to generalize here. A lot of brands will go out and produce a brand anthem piece, so they'll make a film or they'll tell a story to help, contribute to that brand awareness. What you guys did though is you didn't make something and then tell everyone who you were. You passed the mic to other folks and said, "Hey, who do you think we are as a collective, this community of folks within the TREW brand?" And that's something that I think about a lot, which is like, it seems like from a brand's position to be able to make something and share it with an audience, like that takes, I find that to be sometimes presumptuous to assume that the consumer wants to hear from the brand. Now, there's brands that do this really, really well because they've built a community and they've built trust. But brands who maybe don't have buckets of community building or buckets of trust, that seems like a big hurdle to get over. And I feel like it's one of the missing pieces that brands often don't think about when they're contemplating kind of diving into this world of community building around storytelling. Was that a conscious thought on your guys' behalf to pass the mic? Or did that just kind of happen by accident and it's worked out really well?
That was totally the original idea. And I think it worked really well in this case because part of the message, the brand value that we were trying to promote is creativity and self-expression. And so because that's what we're trying to promote, the vehicle that we're distributing that message is actually people being creative, right? So it's like, it's kind of the actual design and structure of this contest promotes that idea in itself. And so that's why I think that works particularly well for this idea, or for our brand, rather. Like our brand, we've always kind of tried to, internally we talk about it like we're a brand for the people. We want to always have this connection to the community and interesting community members. And there's a lot of different facets we can talk about that concept. And part of it is really about like your original question, is standing out, right? It's like, we're not going to support X Games riders, not because we don't like them or respect them. It's just because that's not our value that we're adding to the industry. Those individuals are pretty well taken care of by big companies, and big companies should take care of them because they're responsible for, progressing the sport. And our responsibility, that we think, is we find a lot of value in promoting these unique individuals and lifting up different parts of our community that other parts of the community didn't know exist, and kind of like letting everyone um, check each other out, and kind of like feel like we're all growing this interesting perspective and outlook together. So yeah, I completely agree with you of your assessment of brand films too. I think the other thing I would say on that is, like, at their best, brand films can be incredible, like well produced, well thought out, expanding people's perspectives. They can have messages that uplift parts of communities too. But I would say at their worst, brand films are just these kind of self-promoting exercises that and we've made some things like this in the past too, that almost, if you're an entrepreneur or you're working in a brand, you almost can't resist the urge to like tell people what you're doing. I need to tell you why this is so important. I need to tell people why what we're doing is so important. But as a customer or just an audience member, that's not really like the most interesting thing ever, is to have a brand just like tell you why they're so great, or what, like, even worse than that is like having a brand tell you what their values are. So you're like, fine, I get it. Those are your values, but like, it's more impactful if they can show you, right? If they can be living those values and acting with those values in mind. So I think that's where that comes from. Like this, that's why I love this idea, honestly, because it has all those things going for it. But then I think where it's going next, and where what we're really seeing the energy that the TREW To You project is creating, is it's like more of a proper film festival or film contest for the next year. Like, instead of being, super connected to our brand, it's like now seems like it just has this power and momentum to seek out creatives in our industry and give them a platform, and give them, even more important than a platform is like momentum and a prompt. And so I really love that. It's like, okay, now we're transcending our original goal of, hey, help us get our brand out there, right? And now it's like, oh wow, like we want it now. We're just helping the community um, progress and gain new skills and create new interesting content, and make the film of their dreams. So yeah, that's like kind of its next life. I think that we're hoping season 3 will start really bringing to the front.
That's cool. I mean, you guys are like, you're playing, like, you're playing in culture. You're starting to define a culture, and it seems like people are noticing, and it's starting to have a life of its own. Um, how many contestants submitted for season 2, and how many do you think will attempt to get into season 3? Just so maybe folks have an idea of like how many filmmakers want to work with TREW on this project.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the first season we had less than 100 applications, and we've really like pushed it, right? We were just calling our friends, be like, "Hey, do you know anyone that wants to like join this thing?" And 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 that's how we put the first season together. And maybe we had like 60 or 70 applications, and the next year we had around 160 or 170 applications, um, and we picked 10 teams out of those applications. And the process of picking the teams is like, as you can see from the participants of last season, is a geographical diversity. Like, we wanted teams from these different communities, because that's like the most interesting part about skiing and snowboarding. Is skiing in Michigan is way different than skiing in Oregon. So that's like your first thing that you want to put together. And then next we wanted to look at like diversity of discipline. Like, we want snowboarders and skiers. First season we had a telemark team that was radical from Colorado. Didn't have a telemark team in the second season. Hopefully that'll change. Is there backcountry skiers? Are there people that are just in resort. Like this past season, we had this guy, Ryan from Lake Tahoe, who made an incredible film. He is a lifelong snowboarder, and he just wanted to see if he can teach himself how to ski in 30 days. And he filmed his journey. He
Mm.
did an incredible job. So you show the learning
I
progression.
I haven't seen that one. I'll have to go back and check it out.
Yeah, that one's called Old Dog.
Okay.
Um, Ryan's like a really talented commercial filmmaker in his own right. So we're evaluating that, right? Have they made films? Have they demonstrated their ability to build a finished product? But then also like, we want to make sure we don't only prioritize that, and we have um, made an emphasis on getting participants in the past couple of years that haven't made a film. That's kind of like the point, right? Like if you have an idea and you have something to say, uh, then here's the momentum to bring that to life.
What do you want it to become? Like, what's the vision for the contest?
It's a great question. I mean, I think that's evolving too. Like I said, initially the vision for this, the purpose of this contest was purely brand awareness. Like we wanted to have people help us like get this cool perspective out into the world that we felt like our brand had or has. And today, like I said, I think the vision has evolved to being kind of a standalone film contest in the snow industry that rewards creativity and storytelling. And it's interesting, are you like a do you watch ski films and snowboard
Yeah,
films and stuff? So yeah, you're like everyone else in the snow industry. And how old are you, Cole?
I'm 30.
You're 30. Okay. Yeah. Or I'm a little older. I'm 38. But you're right in that same kind of era as me, right? We straddled uh, VHS and DVD, and that's how we got ski films. And then today it's Instagram and YouTube. And so when you think about like the ski films that we grew up with, um, they serve so many important purposes in our industry. And one of them is progression, right? Like you just every fall the ski films would come out and we'd just be glued to them. We'd buy the VHS or we'd go to the premieres. And one of the things I was most interested in seeing is like, okay, what's possible? What's everyone doing? What's going on? Like there weren't twin tips and there's twin tips. And then there's like big mountain progression was crazy when we were teenagers. Just like what was Seth Morrison, Shane McConkey, and Ken Kreitler going to do next? It was like, and that's the only place you could see it. And so we dissected these ski films. But today, it happens in real time, all the time on YouTube and Instagram. And it's incredible to be able to watch that. Like if someone does another flip or whatever, or another like crazy handrail that no one else had done before, we see it right away. Some of the film companies are like guarding their best shots for the fall releases, but even that is becoming less common. Like some of the most interesting progression is just happening in real time on YouTube. And so, I would say that isn't the primary objective of our ski film, because that's like being taken care of in the kind of creator sphere of all these incredible athletes. And so I look at the other things that are the ski films added when we were growing up, and I think there's community and there's storytelling. And I would say the community part of ski films has degraded. I wouldn't say it's like been lost, but I mean, the best example of this is the old Warren Miller films. And he was like an ambassador to skiing. He's like the elder statesman of ski media. And the films today are not a true embodiment of, I don't think I'm being controversial when I'm saying that they're like really more of a corporate exercise, but the films made before the year 2000, especially when Warren was still involved, or even earlier in the early 90s and late 80s, where Warren narrated, or even before that, when he went on tour and narrated in person, which I wasn't alive for, but his films were like an overview of skiing and snowboarding. The thrilling parts of it, like the best athletes doing extreme skiing or freestyle, which is like just starting to happen, were put right alongside the bunny hill scenes and the comedy of learning to ski, the comedy of a rope tow in the Midwest, and the comedy of early snowboarding, before it was like, it was just like a nascent part of our industry. The comedy of fashion, the like all these different parts of the ski industry, you'd see it in like one film. And is I found that to be exhilarating as a kid, because you're like, if you're not traveling around to all these different places, you just get to see it all in one spot. And today, just like a lot of our different parts of our media world, there's different silos of content and silos of um, skiing and snowboarding. Like, if all you click on is urban skiing, snowboarding, then that's all you're going to see. And you're going to think that's the whole world, which yields really impressive results for like that specific community. Like, there's like now these different silos are really, really growing. Um, but what that's one of the outcomes, I would say. That wasn't anywhere near to anything we were trying to do, but that's an observation that I had when we were on tour. I was like, wow, we're mashing up all these different communities, and we're just putting them on the screen. And in a few cases, in some of the tour stops, we had members from different teams there at the same time, hyping each other up. Like the Dominican snowboarders got to meet one of the filmers from the Schwack Pack from Vermont at the New York City premiere last year, and they were just like gassing each other up, and they're excited about what they're doing. And I'm just sitting there thinking, like, man, these are like, they never would have. Not only it would have been unusual to just even meet in person, they have some, like they're just in different parts of the country, skiing in different parts of the country, but even their content, like, you're not going to just stumble across the Dominican snowboard team if you're, like the Schwack Pack. You're Ski the East, you're Vermont, you're looking at all types of ski media. But to be able to like mash these up and just kind of see what happens and let it become this new product, I think was really interesting. And so that's this is a really long-winded answer, but that's the vision, is like, we want this to be the overview of like kind of this certain type of riding. And I think the benefit that could come of it is just like interesting audience building, and um, and better content, right? Like, these different creators get to meet each other and get motivated by each other and create a product that was bigger than the sum of its parts. And I say that's the goal.
Can you share more about how you justify the ROI? And I think what's cool is like you guys, and I mean, this is coming from your mouth, like you're a relatively small brand, but you've figured out a way to really make something that punches above your own weight class, which is pretty awesome. Can you share kind of why you're going into season 3? Obviously, season 2 was worth it.
Yeah.
How was it worth it? Why was it worth it?
So there's so many different ways to measure ROI in general. But, in this project, we looked at, there's the kind of tactical ROI. We can see like every person that votes, you vote with an email. And so we can just watch this cohort of emails that become customers, and we can watch that revenue grow over time. And so the first season, and we can share numbers because your audience would find it interesting, because it's a bunch of industry marketing people. First season, I think we captured like under 4,000 total emails. That first season's cohort, over the past 18 months, I guess, if they were customers, let me think about that. Yeah, or 12 months that they were customers, have spent $18,000 at TREW. And so that's like their lifetime value to date. That they'll just, one thing, to your point about us being a small company, like, one thing that we do really well is we sell a lot of products to a small amount of people. So if like, there's like a 50% chance you're going to come back and buy something else if you've bought anything from TREW. And we're able to keep growing that relationship with our small amount of customers. So that number may not, feel very big for a lot of bigger brands, but for us, that's a big slice of the pie. So out of those 4,000 emails, like, a few hundred become customers.
Over
I'm
the
not exactly
last
sure.
12 months that you've
Over the
seen
last
so
12
far.
months. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Some buy something right away, they vote and then they get, they get put in a funnel and they get, kind of welcome to True or whatever. And some buy something right away and some buy something 6 months later. Some make multiple purchases. But we can just basically take our entire list of customers and just look at, okay, this is how much revenue we've done in this amount of time. Let's like zero in on this cohort of True to You voters and let's filter for that cohort and see what their activity's like. And right away, that's like the first ROI metric that we look at to be like, that's the first question. When you talk about how do we differentiate ourselves, and I kept saying like, yeah, we want to differentiate ourselves. We want to find our customer. Um, this is a great design to find our customer. Like if you're interested in this project, you're maybe a connected to one of the teams that participate in it, or you're just like really interested in this kind of niche skiing, snowboarding content, you're probably like going to be pretty interested in our products. So you're already filtering yourself down into this like pool of interested people. And that's just a different way of like taking all of Meta or whatever, everyone who's online and being like, have you ever liked a outdoor company or a ski film company or something like that? Like we don't have a lot of luck going for these like huge kind of awareness campaigns. We have a lot more luck and we're a lot more efficient when we're more targeted. Um, so that's really what this is kind of, it's like a way to filter in a new list of customers. And then just to give you an idea of how it's grown, like season 2, we got uh, almost eight or just over 8,000 emails. So almost double the size of the email list. Um, Only a small amount have become customers yet because we literally just onboarded. The voting closed right after Thanksgiving, so just like less than 2 weeks ago. And so the next stage is like, let's look at how that segment of customers, season 1, season 2, and how does that grow over time, and what is like what's the crossover between those two things, and so that's where it becomes really interesting from just like a marketing metric ROI. And then the other piece that like I don't think we'd be doing this project if we didn't have it was the in-person event piece. And that's where you just go out and it's like more traditional grassroots scrappy marketing where you're just talking with new and existing customers. And that is a tremendous value. Or the teams that have participated are telling you like, thank you so much for this platform. We had this idea for a ski film that we wanted to do forever, and we just like never had the reason to like scrap it all to bring it all together. So just hearing that, I put that in an ROI category. I don't know like what the metric is, but it's like in-person community goodwill, right? Like going out, talking to people. We bring samples, we show people product. That's like a pretty small amount of like what those in-person events are all about. They're more about establishing relationships and just like it's the old school ski film style where like you come to a place and you just talk to people about like skiing, which is like what skiers and snowboarders like to do if they're not skiing or snowboarding. So that's I guess the second bucket. And then like the last bucket of ROI is like what is the reach like, so there's how can we get this thing digitally or on trade publications or something like that to be, to have a reach a wider audience. And I'd say that's probably the bucket that has been least, capitalized by us. Like we're a small enough company. We don't have like a PR agency of record right now. So we just put out our own press releases. We kind of like put these things on YouTube, but we haven't really optimized them yet for YouTube. So I'd say this project really lives in our channels, in our own channels, email, and the channels of our partners. And then it lives in person. And I think the next evolution is like, okay, well, how do we give this thing like a really robust and long lasting kind of meaningful digital life? It's kind of interesting because I feel like it's flipped from like a lot of times companies are like, let's make the viral video. And we designed this project to be like, let's get everything we want of value before ever thinking about whether or not this would be like a viral video or something. Like the whole value of it is in the creation, in the application, in the tour, in the engagement with the community, in the voting. all of that is like the kind of soul of this project. And then, maybe the next steps are like, okay, how do we let it, kind of grow on its own a little bit?
Yeah. So you mentioned 3 points of ROI to recap: emails, the value of just being in person and community building together in person, and then the reach. Maybe a fourth one would be the actual content itself. Like, you, as part of all this, you guys get content to be used in a variety of different ways.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we get photos, we get photography, and we get videos. Like a lot of parts of this project that, I feel like we haven't even totally realized the value of this stuff yet. We we're just sitting on a treasure trove of really cool user generated content. But that is definitely a big, um, return or value driver for this project.
One idea I just had was like, could you do, so you've got all these filmmakers telling these stories, right? 10 filmmakers telling 10 stories, or 10 teams rather. Could you do like an interview series with each of the filmmakers once their story has been published, and you could like go deep into why did you want to make this? How did this idea come to be? And you could create, like, it could be an interview, it could be a podcast, it could be its own YouTube series. Like, there could be something to dig in a little deeper there.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great segue actually to like we can talk about the changes we're making to season three. Um, Myself and Jess, who manages this project on our team, when we sat down and talked about like the opportunities with this project, like maybe what's missing, how do we improve it? That was a huge part of it is like we want to go deeper with each team. And with 10 teams in such a short window, it was basically like it's felt like like we were moving heaven and earth just to get the files from these teams and help them along the way. And so next season, or this season that we're accepting applications for, we're going to pick 5 teams. So we're going to cut down the total amount of films in half, and we're going to have them make a slightly longer film. So it'll be a 7-minute cap. And then we're also hiring an executive producer. So a really experienced filmmaker and editor that will have some back end knowledge of technical stuff, color correction, audio, stuff like that, exports, but also have some feedback for the process. We're gonna design check-ins. So like, hey, let's look at the storyboard. Well, first of all, here's a template for a storyboard that kind of our panel of experts in this EP have put together. Like, here's the resources. Here's a something you can read, or a YouTube video or whatever. Just like, if you need it, let's dive in. We want to give you these resources. If you're an experienced filmmaker, no problem. Like, you've probably done this before. But we're gonna establish check-ins along the way. Show us some of the selects. Show us your first, kind of like edit, and we'll be in touch for any problems. If they've run into like licensing music problems, which has been a struggle in the past, or any type of like teams, like having that short of a window, especially for teams that have never put a film together before, they run into all sorts of stuff. Like, oh, we had a filmer and that then he like got called on a different project, so we had to like scrap something together. And we want to be a part of the process, much more a part of the process this season than we have in the past, in order to be a resource and help these teams create kind of truly the vision that they've had. And in that sense, it kind of takes on this like other component as like an incubator. So now it's like we're lifting up, we're like helping people, we're pushing them into the next phase of their creative career in skiing and snowboarding. And so as we do that, like to get back to your original prompt or question, it's like, yes, we'll establish like a closer relationship with these teams, build some behind the scenes footage, and also the way we're structuring it this season and next season is the winning team, instead of just getting a cash prize and everyone goes on their separate ways, our cash prize will fund the feature length film for next year's tour. So in 2020, like this year coming up, we're going to feature a production of a film that we're supporting from a TREW To You alumni. It's a 10-minute film that we're going to help produce. And then you'll watch 5 of the contest films. And then the winning film will be chosen by a combination of popular vote and a judges panel that we're putting together. So we're bringing in a little bit more of that film festival type of vibe. Instead of pure popular vote, we're going to start judging the films on creativity, storytelling, execution. And then the winning film will get to pick the theme for next year, and they'll be the feature presentation that we're going to produce their film. So it becomes this like cycle of like, here's, we're going to help them make the film in the contest, and whoever wins, we're going to help them with an even bigger budget produce a bigger, more impactful film. So yeah, that's season 3, and that, you can already tell where we're going, right? We've gone from like pure user generated kind of like, hey, help fill in the blank what our brand's all about, and now just after 2 seasons, we've kind of arrived at this like, oh, this is like more about uplifting filmers and storytellers and finding these new, really valuable, interesting stories that are waiting to be told, and skiing and snowboarding that's like needs to be highlighted, and different perspectives and point of views.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sitting here getting excited for you guys. Like, it seems like you're on the ground floor of, or maybe you're 3 floors up of something that could be pretty incredible. Because I feel like what you're doing is the stuff that I love. It's like, how do you take the real world, like marketing objectives and business needs, and how do you couple that with creativity and stories and film? And like, you guys have come up with a really neat way to bring those worlds together that's working. That maybe doesn't like, it doesn't require a huge internal team or a giant agency to help you produce it. Like, it's something that you guys can do, and it's working. And it's at its barest minimalist point, it's working. So it can only work better from here on out, right?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Cole. And that's like, I think that's the value of ideas like this for, for small companies like us, is it has to work, but it also has to like be something that we're pretty motivated to do. I agree with you. It's like an exciting prospect. It does feel like we're definitely on the ground floor or something. And we'll talk again next year though. I'll see like where the next evolution might lead it, because it's already changed and morphed a lot in the past 2 years.
Chris, is there anything we haven't talked about that you want to leave with folks? Any last thoughts? Again, I think you guys are doing an awesome job. It's awesome to hear the creativity and how you guys are standing out and making an impact while doing it.
Yeah, thanks, Cole. I appreciate it. I think we talked about. I'm just excited to be able to talk about this project, and I think we covered it pretty extensively. And yeah, no, I love the discussion, and thanks for having me on the show. I love the conversations you've had. It's like I've learned a lot from a lot of the other conversations, and a lot of it's in this same vein of subject matter we're talking about. It's like this nuanced look at like ROI, right? There's some podcasts that are like, how do you get rich quick? Like vlogging ROI, and you're like, that's stressful for me. It's kind of Gary Vee type stuff. Is like, that's not what we're doing here. And so I appreciate your perspective on stuff. There's like, yeah, you ask ROI questions, but there's also like, in our industry, ROI is like, how did that feel for the community? Like,
sometimes ROI is just a high five and a good beer,
right?
shared with someone else.
That's well put. Yeah.
Right on, Chris. Well, thanks again. If folks want to learn more about the film series, if folks want to apply, if they want to stay tuned for season 3, where can they go to learn more?
Yeah, our website has its own section of the drop-down menu that has information about the TREW To You tour. But certainly subscribing to our email or following along on our channels is where we're constantly updating people about this contest. But yeah, just subscribe to us and we'll tell you about it.
All right, on. All right, Chris, well, have a great rest of your day. I hope you get up to the hill and get some turns in here.
Yeah, thanks, Cole. You too.